Hello and welcome to what is for now the penultimate episode of the Caged In podcast. A podcast in which week by week I go film by film through the career of Nicolas Cage to find out, is he an arse-kicking work of majesty in cinema, or is he a limp-wristed waste of time? To help me answer that question this week, as well as answer, are they a Nic Cage fan, which was their first, and what is their favourite Nic Cage movie, is Ben Davis of the Filmfloggers podcast. I asked Ben some extra questions over on Patreon, which are which director would he like to see Nic Cage work with, which Ben has some fantastic answers. He gives two. He gives a joke answer, which, to be honest, I would love to see Nic Cage work with this director, just because it would be a very, very interesting sight to behold. I'll tell you that for sure. As well as which is Cage's best performance. Not necessarily his favourite film, but the best performance Nic Cage has ever put onto celluloid. As well as, in the spirit of the Filmfloggers, which is Nic Cage's worst film of all time. You can obviously find the Patreon over at patreon.com/cagedinpod to hear all of Ben's fantastic answers. So the regular spoiler warnings do apply to this episode, so if you haven't seen it, always check the show notes to find out if and where this film is streaming. So if you're back with us, if you don't care about spoilers, because we go well into every punch by punch, blow by blow to Dmitry Logothetis's martial arts, sci-fi, drama, jiu-jitsu. A quick heads up, if you are listening on day of release, you have until this Friday, that is Friday the 12th of February 2021, to order your very own Caged In Not the Bees t-shirt, which takes inspiration from both the original and the Neil LaBute 2006 Wicker Man remake, in this fantastic design designed by an amazing illustrator called Tim Sinclair. So do be sure to pre-order one now. And a massive thank you to everyone who has already pre-ordered one. It means so much to me that I could get a fucking t-shirt. That's pretty cool. So if you want to grab one of those whilst you still can, you can head on over to cagedinpodcast.limitedrun.com. With all of that out of the way, there's only one thing left to do, and that's to get raging with Cage. A man wakes up groggy, no recollection of his past. He's a deadly killing machine tasked with battling a man in a rubber suit. I mean an alien. Then in steps Nicolas Cage in full Yoda-mode to remind him of the way of the Force. To fight this film, I needed some backup, and I found that in a man, to some, known as Bunny. He's one half of the dynamic duo of podcasting, tasked with scraping out the barrel and deciding whether a film deserves a flogging. I have the pleasure of being joined by one of the film floggers, Ben Davis. How are you, Ben?
I'm very well. Kudos for getting the name right, Filmfloggers. Yep. It's a tricky name to remember. So you're already up my estimation, so well done. But no, thanks, Petros. It's a pleasure to come on. I know we've been talking about it for a while. It's just unfortunate that the film is not we'll get into it, but but it's great to come on, and either way, I'm looking forward to delving into this whatever this bloody thing is.
Well, yeah, obviously the film we are talking about today, if you didn't see it in the title before you clicked on it, is the 2020 Dmitry Logothetis film Jiu Jitsu. Do you know much about Dmitry Logothetis and his work before we get into the questions today?
He's got a pretty funky name. I'm quite enjoying the. I'm glad you went with his name because I wasn't gonna. Because if you listen to any film vloggers, if you want to, me and Tom, our names, getting people's names right or pronouncing them is not one of our strong points. I'm glad you did that. No, to be honest, apart from I know he's done the Kickboxer.
Mm-hmm.
He brought that back, didn't he?
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of them. I've seen the original one with Jean-Claude Van Damme, but I've not seen the new ones that he did. I heard that Ronaldinho was in one of them, so
wow.
that sounds. I'm not gonna. I don't feel like I'm gonna rush to see. But I've heard, I've heard they went down reasonably well in the sort of the action community, and I think it's I think they're quite well. They were well received for their fighting and everything else, but. No, I've not seen them myself personally.
Yeah, in regards to names, I feel like I should have. I have a duty to get it right because Dimitri Logothetis is Greek.
Yes.
So as am I. So he's done 2 kickboxer films, Vengeance and Retaliation, both starring the star of this film, Alan Moussari. But before we get too deep down the jiu-jitsu rabbit hole, as I always ask my guests on this podcast, are you a Nicolas Cage fan?
Well, I think, yes, in short, I am a Nicolas Cage fan. No, I think Nicolas Cage, you take away all the stigma around him, especially in, say, the last, 10, 15 years, the more the VOD stuff's come along and all the memes and everything else, take that away. I think if you actually properly, if you go back, even some of the films that he's done recently have been good. Ones that I've not seen all of them, but he is a phenomenal actor. Yeah, there's no question that he is top notch. Like he can. What I've actually found is what I've enjoyed, sort of gearing up for doing this episode with you, is that I've gone back and looked at some of his older stuff and some of his more probably you'd say subtle performances. Sort of the more comedic routes that he's taken in films. I watched the other day for the first time Moonstruck, and it was just incredibly charmed by Nic Cage. The film's really charming, and it's like take Nic Cage out of it, it's still a nice, fuzzy, charming film. But Nic Cage is just adorable in it. I was just like, this is the Cage that I think I actually enjoy the most. I there's a time and a place for the shouty Cage. Which again, as like the man next to me, I'm liking that, but I feel like the subtle performances is that's kind of where I'm at with Cage. But huge fan.
Even a film like Moonstruck, he gets that opportunity to deliver some like bombastic Cageisms, like that kind of speech he delivers, where he's like, "He took my life," like I got nothing. He's like, "Go get the big knife," like he's going out there and giving some real oomph to it, and it warrants the character because he's this kind of browbeaten guy who feels like he's got nothing, and he's supposed to be like a fiery Italian, and like he kind of nails that perfectly. And that film is just like brimming with charm and kind of sexual tension from the off, isn't it? It's kind of like a weirdly like charming, but it's got this undercurrent of bubbling rage and sexual. It's like, are they at any moment gonna fight or fuck?
Yeah, pretty much. I guess I don't know if I'm assuming that Cage at some point in his career has been sort of lauded as a sex symbol.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because he's he's not the typical say, I know, like Brad Pitt or DiCaprio type, just a pretty boy, good looking, striking. But especially in his earlier days, like he was unique looking. If you walked into the room, you'd be, even before he opened his mouth, you'd be like, oh, I can imagine this guy's got something about him.
Well, he's always been a bit of like a wild man as well. And like I recently watched an interview with Patricia Arquette, and she said like how they got together was like he kind of like very early on in their relationship. I think it was him and Crispin Glover like met her out one night, and he said like they were kind of arguing together, going like, "Oh, I'm gonna marry her," and like Cage was like, "No, I'm gonna marry her," and then he said like, "What is it going to take for me to marry you?" This is like very early on, and she said to him like, "Oh, here's a list of demands. Like, I want like JD Salinger's like autograph. I want like a black rose. Like all these kind of like ludicrous things that could never be attained. And he just went out and got them like an absolute like madman. And then like, yeah, I think this was like years later, they eventually did end up getting married in like 2005. No, 1994.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I'd say with Cage, he's not been shy of someone who goes out and just buys extravagant items.
Yeah,
probably why he's having some. He's been really selling the VOD stuff the last few years, unfortunately. But no, I can't. I can imagine. I know he's been married and divorced a few times now, Cage. But I can imagine. However long or short it lasts, it's a fun ride for the majority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's either like a kind of roller coaster or it's a detonator at Fort Park. If listeners don't know what that is, it's you just kind of go up slowly up like sat facing outwards and then plummet down after. They normally do a little fake out, don't they? They'll be like, it's going to be on the count of 5 and then it's on they drop you on the 2. Like,
yeah.
You crafty bastards. It's the same people who dropped fucking Alan Rickman on a Die Hard.
Yes, yeah. It's like is it the Oblivion as well, where it kind of goes over and sort of lingers on the edge. It sort of starts wobbling a little bit, so you're like, oh, anytime now, and it may just for another few seconds. Oh, we've gone.
Yeah, so because I think famously Cage has got like a marriage that lasted like a month or something like that. So imagine that month was like, it's what I mean. He's a guy with intense passion. That month was probably like full on, and then it was kind of gone. But we could get lost in the kind of the bog of Nicolas Cage's romantic life. But do you remember the first Nic Cage film you ever saw?
Now, see, I think the first film I actually saw with Cage in, which I probably didn't even really, I didn't know anything about Nic Cage at this point, was Rumblefish. I remember watching that a lot, like years when I was a kid. And I think Rumblefish was more. There was quite a few breakout roles in Rumblefish, wasn't there? But I think that was more. I can't really remember Cage's role. I don't think it's that big. I think it's more sort of Matt Dillon and Mickey Rourke. They're the kind of big hitters, and Cage is sort of there as a sort of a supporting character. But so that was probably the first film that I watched with Cage in, not really knowing anything about Cage. But then I guess for the first film that I saw that I knew, like, hang on, who's this? Like, this is Cage. Would be. I thought it was City of Angels, because there was these films on Sky. It was. I used to when back in the day. Well, Sky's obviously still going, but I used to have like the film out at the cinema. Then a year later, they used to appear on Sky. It's a similar thing now, but City of Angels, I remember watching quite a lot when I was a kid. My mum was like a big fan of City of Angels, but going by the dates of when the films came out, it would have been the first one I would have seen and noticed Nic Cage would have been The Rock.
Oh.
Based on that was 96, wasn't it, The Rock?
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine that must have come on Sky before City of Angels, because City of Angels was a couple of years later, wasn't it? Like 98.
98, yeah.
Yeah. So it must have been The Rock.
A solid entry point, and a kind of like his kind of real first tiptoe into becoming that alternative action star that he kind of like really put to task over that, what I called the testosterone trilogy of The Rock, Con Air, and then kind of culminating in Face Off with him and Travolta.
Yeah, no, The Rock. He's a bit more. He's, as you said, he's a bit more sort of subdued in The Rock, isn't he? He's. I know he plays like an FBI. Like is he more into like sort of computers, or
he's a scientist? Yes,
scientist. That's right.
Stanley Goodspeed, and that's what I mean. It's around that time of like the 80s was littered with like muscle men action heroes, and the 90s you kind of got the birth of the everyman action hero. Probably was kind of the proto to that was John McClane, I guess, in Die Hard. But then the two standouts, I always mention it, is him and Keanu Reeves and Nicolas Cage kind of had great careers in the 90s of being these like not archetypal action stars. Do you know what I mean? They weren't a Jean-Claude Van Damme who could do splits and like kick you in the head. They were kind of like, they could be, I don't know, the bloke next door types.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, that's a good point. They were sort of out of place when you saw them. They were kind of they as the film goes along with The Rock. So Cage kind of gets a bit more confident, and he's completely out of his comfort zone. And there's people shooting at him, and there's guns and everything. There's explosions, as it kind of goes along, he gets a bit more, you know, I guess that's why it sort of balances quite nicely with the whole Sean Connery. Sean Connery's like this grizzled, you know, veteran, he's expert, he's been in prison all this time. And Cage is just kind of like, you know, he's there for the support, and he's like, yeah, if we can get me to the nukes, I'll be able to maybe disarm them and stuff. But Sean Connery's like, well, yeah, but you know, you may have to shoot some people in the face, Cage. Like, oh, God, that's not really that's not really what I do here, Sean. But I'll try my best. And then he kind of, by the end of the film, he's kind of like, he's not like you know, he's not like, yeah, he's ready to go and he's ready to kill like 100 people, but he's kind of gained that confidence, and he's sort of transitioned over to sort of just more than this guy who's like a bit scared and a bit like, oh, I don't know what to do, you know, I'm going to hide behind you, Sean. But no, he's good. He's that probably goes with, as I was saying about the whole more, even though that performance in The Rock isn't that subtle, it's the more kind of like lovable Cage. It's the more kind of like geeky, kind of like a bit awkward, you know, doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's going to get you out of a jam. You know, it's like if you plopped us in you know, on Alcatraz and we got told that we were getting shot and we had to disarm some nukes, we'd be like, oh, fuck that. I'm just gonna hide behind this rock.
Well, I guess it's the most restrained and kind of like charming Cage you can get in a Michael Bay film as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Considering it's like, he is somebody who is all about like explosions, like close-ups of women's asses, and like, do you know what I mean? Like muscle men fighting, and it's like, yeah, Cage. I don't know. Cage's character in that is, I guess it's kind of was repeated somewhat with Sam Witwicky in like the Transformers films. Do you know what I mean? Like that out of their depths character who's kind of thrust into this situation, and then you've got the grizzled veteran telling Cage, like, as we'll get to when we speak about jiu-jitsu, it's always good to have a grizzled older character to basically tell you and the audience what's going on and what's going to happen in the film, basically.
Yeah, no, I'd go along with that. I think that just works. That just leaves, because then you don't need Cage taking point and centre. You don't need him maybe going off on one of his, you know, tandems and when he's like shouting. So he can just sort of just blend in. Mm-hmm. You know, he's there. You're rooting for him. And you can leave someone else to do all the, you know, the graft, and then Cage can sort of just swoop in at the end and sort of save the day. And, oh, Cage, you're a hero. You've come a long way. Well done.
There's always something really funny about The Rock, is that, like, I believe there was like a governmental report. It was reported on in The Guardian that, like, when it came to like the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, like, it was actually, I think it's like the Chilcot report or something like that. Like, somebody had basically written like the weapon from The Rock into that report. Like, some wires were massively crossed somewhere, and that managed to actually like make its way into like a government document. And it kind of plays to the thing that obviously like they were just looking for any reason to get into Iraq, and like somebody went, like skimming through the TV and was, I don't know, ITV3, The Rock's on. He's like, you know what? Yep, these green balls that look like dishwasher tablets. Saddam Hussein's got loads of those.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, just sort of catches The Rock late night on ITV2 and just goes, oh, hang on a minute, we could use this.
Amazing. So, what is your favourite Nic Cage film?
Favourite Nic Cage film. Do you know? I think if we base it on, say, the last sort of 10, 15 years, in terms of, as I've going along with what I've said about how I like prefer maybe more of like a subtle, comedic, a bit awkwardness kind of performance, I really enjoy, and sort of which is very watchable, National Treasure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like there's, you know, there's like the big hitters, you know, Leaving Las Vegas and Adaptation. They're up there, of course. Like, you know, they're like phenomenal films, like great performances. But I've just got a soft spot for National Treasure. I just like Cage in that. I like, you know, the film is like, yeah, so-so. It's like popcorn, you know, chasing after the Declaration of Independence. It's like, it's obviously very silly. But I just like Cage. I quite enjoy Cage running as well. He's running, he just looks throughout that film very awkward.
Yeah.
But it just works. I just like Cage in that kind of mode.
Well, they're perfect films, both the National Treasure films. They kind of like play into something that I very much enjoy, of that kind of like treasure seeking. Like, I've really enjoyed like the Uncharted games on PlayStation and stuff like that. And I think they like balance the humor and the kind of like silliness with it, with some kind of like, especially that first one. It's got like Sean Bean plays like a real sinister bad guy as well, doesn't he? He's like, well, he's Sean Bean, isn't he? He can play kind of like, oh, I'm gonna fuck you up, mate.
Yeah, no, it's nice. I think it's, you know, it's one of those questions where it is kind of tricky, I suppose, your favourite, because it is very easy just to say, as you said, the trifecta, you know, the trilogy of The Rock, Face Off, Con Air, that they're the kind of ones that if you ask anyone like, you know, Nic Cage, if you're sort of into Nic Cage, and I'm not saying I'm the biggest Nic Cage fan of them all, but they're the ones that you could just sort of ring off and go, yeah, you know, probably Face Off or Con Air is quite fun. But no, I was thinking about it, and just National Treasure, for whatever reason, just sprung to mind. And I just, it's probably the one if I had the option now to rewatch, I'd put that on, because I just know what I'm getting.
Yeah. A perfect like Sunday afternoon film.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Feeling a bit groggy, had a few too many shandies the night before, and if it's on, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, if it's on TV, or like, I don't know, you stumble for the remote and put on Disney Plus, you're like, yeah, you know what, that will while away a couple of hours, and then kind of like cheer when he says like, I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence. You're like, yes, you fucking will, Nick.
Yeah, I think it's just, I just like the idea of just the more subtle Cage. It takes it, you know, it really is like the pinnacle of him just dubbing it down, not having to worry too much about shouting or carrying the film, or you know, the film may not be very good, so he thinks like he's sort of going and start, you know, like bringing the energy levels up to 1 million. And you know, I was going to ask you actually about. So I guess I've not really watched too much of his kind of VODs over the last sort of 10 years. And I was thinking about how some of the films that he's been in the last, say, 10, 15 years, are they films that are just bad, and because Cage is in them, they're watchable, some of them? Is there any film that would be actually some way is actually not a great film, but is actually made worse with Cage being in it?
I don't think any of them are necessarily made worse by Nicolas Cage being in them. I think the fact that some of them feel like the directors don't know what to do with Nicolas Cage, that really, like, so yeah, I guess him being in them like makes it worse. But I think it's more of just a thing of like mismanagement on like the production of it, and it's like, there's only one film that he's outwardly come out and said like that he doesn't like either, that he's done in like the last 10 years, which is a film called 211, which is a real piss poor film that like vaguely touches on a real life scenario about a bank robbery, but it's kind of got like a really like thrown in message about like, what is it, like film, like, do you know what I mean, like film the police culture, like surveillance culture, and kind of like racism within police. And it's kind of like very quickly in that film, it does a 180 turn, and Cage's character realizes that like, oh yeah, I'm no longer racist, like maybe filming the police is a good idea, done, like bow round it, done, yeah, we're sorted. And it's like, no, yeah, but there are some, like, the opposite of your question, there are some that are inherently better. They're shit films, but they're inherently better for him being in them.
Yeah, well, I think talking about anything to do with bank robberies, going back to Trapped in Paradise, which we unfortunately had the displeasure of talking about on Filmfloggers. Yeah, I think Cage, Cage, stay away from the banks.
Yeah,
no bank robberies, Cage. It doesn't go too well.
So we get to the headline act of this podcast. I guess now we have to talk about jiu-jitsu.
You know what I don't understand? How the hell are you still alive?
Must have been a pretty bad fall. The comet you see in the sky right now passes over the Earth every 6 years and causes a portal. And when it's open, we get a visitor from a distant galaxy. The poet warrior in the sci-fi sense. The spaceman. He comes here looking for a fight with you. The chosen jiu-jitsu. If he doesn't get it, he stays and he kills everything. That is Alien Politics 5 through 15. Now, you are all the chosen Jiu Jitsu fighters. But as long as you die bravely, no one else will have to. He's crazy, like me. There's no honor in killing crazy. I can fly too.
Was this your first time watching this film, Ben?
Well, I guess I technically have watched it twice. Jiu-Jitsu. I've watched it when it when it first sort of came out, pretty much the first kind of week. I was pretty keen to watch it. The trailer's pretty fun. It's like, it's got Cage in it, of course. It looks fun. It's worth a watch. So that was a tough. Well, it wasn't. It was just disappointing. I didn't expect much. Of course, the trailer obviously made it look. It's going to make it look a way better than it is. And I didn't go into it, but you want to come out of it and go, okay, that was pretty shit, but it was fun. That sort of film, you need to make sure you have, at the worst case scenario, you have fun with it. And I didn't. And so I sort of had to. I skimmed through it again before this podcast today, and to be honest, I had to sort of I had to speed it up a bit. I had to put it on 1.3, and I just I couldn't get through it. It was So I guess I've technically seen it twice, which is potentially twice too many.
Well, I put it on 1.5 in some of the fight sequences.
Right, there you go, yeah.
There's an overuse of slow motion in this film. So I felt like that really made it a lot more exciting. Considering this, so the cast of this film, we'll quickly go into it. You not just Cage, obviously he's there for more the dramatic side of it, but you have some great martial artists. Do you know what I mean? You have Tony Jaa, who is the Ong Bak films, very, very well revered. You've got JuJu Chan. You've got who else? Frank Grillo. I'm not sure if he's known for martial arts, but he's known for just turning up and being a bit of a fucking badass, isn't he? And then
he can fight a bit, can't he? When he needs to, he's gave old Cap in the Marvel films a bit of a bit of a fight. So
and then you've got looking through the cast, you've got Ryan Turan, who plays Brax, the alien in question. So and it's just kind of littered with stunt. So he's a stunt man, and then there's Maurice Crump, who plays Forbes. The thing is, I'm saying all these names of characters. You don't get introduced to a single, really to a single fucking person. You don't really know who anyone is, what their motivation, apart from the fact that would you mind setting up this? What is the kind of the setup for this film, Ben?
Oh God, good question. Well, so it's basically it gets off to the bad start with the whole opening in space. I feel like if you're going to start in space, you need to make sure that your CGI is on point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that block was. It was a meteor, wasn't it? But it just gets off to such a bad start. And the budget was pretty handy. It was 25 mil. Yeah. I imagine majority of that is gone on the talent, but 25 mil still nothing to sort of sniff at. Big,
considering a lot of Cage films that are would be considered nowhere near in this I don't know a lot better than this. There's a film Kill Chain, it was $3 million. Do you know what I mean? And it's just I think sometimes with films, when they have that smaller budget, they have to be a bit more creative with it, whereas this, and it's apart from the talent, I don't see where the money has gone in this film.
No. I just everything just looks really cheap. That's the issue of it. It just the alien looks cheap. The the sort of the post-production sort of special effects and the bullets and the ninja stars that have been tacked on just look bad. But no, so to me, so the premise to me is the fact that it's this alien comes out of this horrendous CGI portal every 6 years to face, to challenge the chosen Jiu-Jitsu people, and then they have to all fight him, and then he may be vanquished, he may beat them, but as long as they're all there to fight him, that's fine, and then he will go back through his portal, do whatever he's doing. The comet will then circle the Earth, and then it will start off again 6 years, and then we just have that going every 6 years. He comes back again, he fights the chosen Jiu-Jitsu, and that it's kind of like a Mortal Kombat-esque. Once every 6 years or once every so many years, there's a tournament or there's a fighting challenge going on, and then as long as you play by the rules, everything's okay.
See, what I don't understand about this premise is why. Why? If you're like a kind of like you want to destroy a planet alien, why are you like in the form of like a man essentially? Do you know what I mean? You're a humanoid form. Even like it's clearly a man in a rubber suit. Like you see when he bends his arms, you can kind of see the rubber crinkling and stuff like that. And it's like it looks like a mixture between like Ninja Gaiden from Raiden, Ninja Raiden or something like that, or like one of the ninjas from the Metal Gear Solid game or something like that. And it's kind of they've tried to, I don't know what's going on with the face. So there's obviously that blue screen and then this like distorted face in there.
Yeah, no, the face is, I've got it's just squished. It's just a squished face. Yeah. It's just, his helmet just doesn't fit properly. You just get this squished nose.
What it looks like is, have you ever seen like those crafty videos that like will go on Facebook or something like that? Around Halloween, they'll be like, oh, spook your family by like taking a photo of yourself pressed up against glass and like put it in a jar. So like print it out and put it in a jar. It basically looks like that. It looks like a mixture of liquid, but somebody has pressed their face up against like a window. And it's like, what? Like who's designing this? Who's like, and that's the with films. It's like there are so many people involved. There's got to be so many people who kind of like sign off on that and go, you know what? You take the rest of the day off. You fucking nailed that alien design.
Yeah, it's the logic again is just hard to comprehend because I just don't. All these people that have looked at that alien and just gone that character design or whatever it is, and it's okay. As you said, the suit and the design of the alien's quite, it's quite boring, and it's it's clearly you can see that it's a man in a rubber suit running around. Why do we need to see the face? If you're going to present us that face, that squished kind of, PlayStation, whatever it is, it's like it's with the whole, like, you get those sort of memes, don't you? You get those things of those pictures of like PlayStation graphics where the faces are, it's like, it looks a bit like Max Payne from the original Max Payne because the graphics, were still really bad. He didn't have they couldn't make his features 3D. So his whole face is just squashed. It's like he's been run over. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what it was. That kind of what it reminded me of, just a squashed Max Payne who they've just put in a rubber suit. I don't.
It's PlayStation 2 graphics in 2020. It's like we're past that, and like, well, you kind of know that you're not in for a good time, as you said. You kind of get that shot of the meteor, but then like the title sequence is this like what I can only describe as like a Windows Movie Maker like cartoon preset. Do you know what I mean? Like, or like it used, like people would use it back in the day for their like MSN profile picture, where it'd be like some kind of filter. Where it'd be like, make me look like a cartoon, and it's just like, well, that's clearly it's not drawn. It's just like a really crap filter over the top, and then we get these like, kind of like an Ed Hardy tattoo flash sheet of just different things, whether it's like the snake and the skull, and it's like, oh God, like it just all looks terrible.
Yeah, I didn't. So when I first watched it, I hadn't really sort of, apart from watching the trailer, I just sort of left it at that. So I didn't have any concept at all that this was from like a comic. So when all the comic panels started sort of flashing in my face, I was like, what's this? What we're doing with this? I had no idea that the director had originally made this as a comic. It was only after I watched it I was like, oh, okay, well that's kind of makes sense. But yeah, it didn't help. And you know, me and Tom discuss it on Filmfloggers quite often about, you know, where I just can't get my head around the concept of this CGI, especially when something's, you know, got a pretty, you know, substantial budget. I'm just not getting where the money's going. I just don't, apart from obviously the, you know, as we said, you know, the talent and the people involved in terms of the CGI, which, you know, I think is reasonably, it's not cheap to design CGI. And if a big part of the budget is going on CGI in a lot of these films, I'm just not getting it. You know, by all means, you know, if you can make the CGI look bad, but can you, it doesn't, it kind of looks, it looks bad, but then it just looks cheap. That's the thing of it. It's bad. It's a bit jarring, but it just looks cheap. You know, as you said, the opening titles, it's so naff and cheap.
Well, there's elements of it that don't need CGI as well. There's like an overuse of CGI blood, like when people are getting punched in the face and there's this horrible CGI blood like flying out of their mouths. It's like, well, they either just don't need to be any blood at all, or like surely like you can just get like some blood capsules, or do you know what I mean, like some kind of like fake blood can't be that expensive, or just don't have it. And like it's kind of coupled with like, so that fight sequence when Tony Jaa turns up to the base, because Alan Moussari's Jake character, again, like the script of this could have easily been written on the back of a fag packet, because it's kind of like bloke wakes up, doesn't remember anything. Yep, there's an alien. Yep, 6 years, comes down, has to fight everyone. Why? Doesn't matter. People will buy into it. He's going to kind of learn the ways that he used to know. And as he gets like reintegrated into his fighting family. But like that, so yeah, he's in that like interrogation booth. And then like Tony Jaa turns up to fight, and it's like a thing that really stood out to me is like the sound design as well, like with like the gunshots. Like you've either got like handguns that sound like Western pistols, or you kind of got these like horrible machine gun sounds that sound like you know, those fake machine guns you'd have as a kid, where it's like and it, like the CGI for the bullets, it's just like. And there was a moment, I'm rambling on here, but there was a moment I was like, what are we going to get? Like, I was like, I half expect to hear a Wilhelm scream, you know, like the classic, like, ah! And then like literally 30 seconds later, you get, ah! I was like, fucking hell.
Yeah, no, the Tony, when, you know, the introduction of Tony Jaa, I think for me, yeah, as you said, you know, the CGI, the bullets, you know, there's multiple times where the soldiers run towards Tony Jaa instead of just keeping the distance trying to shoot him. I know they've all got horrendous aim for whatever reason, but they just run towards him. There's even a scene, there's even a bit where they're having a bit of a standoff. You know, the guy's just trying to reach for his gun and just doesn't take it out of his holster, just so Tony Jaa can just punch him and kick him and run off again. But I think for me that the biggest thing about that scene with Tony Jaa when they escape is the camera work.
Oh,
not even getting to the first person stuff, which is just, oh my God, it's some of the worst things. Some of the worst camera work I've ever seen. It's just that jarring, shaky cam.
Yeah.
And it's just, it literally is vomit inducing, because, you know, if it could make you sick. It's like being on a really wank roller coaster. It's shaking all over the place.
Well, there's that thing of doing like interesting, like, kinetic filmmaking, and I think like filmmakers who did it really well is Neville Dean and Taylor, who did the Crank films. But that's kind of like quick, like being with the action, or like something like The Raid. But it's like that's choreographed within an inch of its life, and the cameramen know what they're doing. Whereas this is like they've got a guy, it's like his first day out of film school, and gone like, just follow the fighting, get as close as you can. And like some moments, it's like, why are you focusing on this? Like there's kind of like a lingering shot on a door, and it's like it's a good like 3-4 seconds too long, because you're like, right, someone's going to get kicked through that door. And it's like, if that was kind of, if it kind of like just panned to that very like kinetically, and then someone came through the door, it's like, great. But it's like, we're lingering on this for way too long. It's like, you're signposting it. And then, yeah, as you said, that first person stuff is just like, oh, fuck off.
Yeah, pretty. You know, I think the with the shaky stuff, I guess they just didn't know what else to do. They must maybe they acknowledged that they couldn't have the whole set piece of just pure shaky cams. So they're like, well, the only thing we can do, we can't film it any other way. So we're gonna have to just do this like, oh, let's just try this really cool. What's that film? Hardcore Henry style. Where I guess with that, you know, that wasn't a great film, but it was the premise of that was it was first person from start to finish. So it's like, okay, fine, whatever. I guess it's similar to something like Doom, where you have that first person, and even that it makes a bit of sense because it's a first person shooting game. You know, we'll have that first, you know, to appease the gaming fans. Oh yeah, that's Doom, first person, fun. But this, it's just senseless. It just doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, I'm glad we kind of got the camera work out of the way nice and early. And like, I had a couple of beers last night, and I was watching like this morning, and some of the fight sequences genuinely, and it's that shaky cam. I was like, I think I'm gonna be sick.
Yeah, vomit inducing. Yeah,
it's like, oh yeah, it's genuine, and I think like I'm really stuck on this like first like fight sequence at the base, because it takes a good like 5 minutes before Jake and the female military officer to realise anything's going on. It's like, how fucking big is this base? It's like, we kind of get a sense of the geography, and it's supposed to be Burma as well. And it's like, it's not. Like, it's clearly, like, look, this is filmed in Cyprus. And like, well, as soon as I read that and I was watching it this time, I was like, oh, I bet they had a lovely holiday making this film. Like, I guess that's one of the benefits from this. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I guess that's why a lot of them signed on, because they were like, yeah, like 6 weeks or not even, do you know what I mean, 3-week holiday in Cyprus. Yeah, nice and sunny. I'll have a bit of that. But like, I don't know. I think Burma, you expect it to be more like Vietnam. Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of like, not just kind of dry desert and stuff like that. That they kind of, they look like they're in it looks like it's set in like the Middle East in those, like in that base sequence at least.
Yeah, no, it's not really you're not really believing it, are you? No. You're not really believing the setting at all. But no, I guess as you said, you know, I'm guessing maybe, you know, I guess you can take away that Cage may have got a half decent tan. So I guess, you know, that's something. But no, that whole base scene is just, yeah, I think it just sums up the film, doesn't it, quite nicely. It's all over the place. You don't know what's going on. You're questioning everything that's happening. Every fight, every sort of bit of action, you're like, why are you doing that? Why is the camera shaking there? Why, as you said, why have you not noticed Tony Jaa, who's cleaning up this whole base, which is not even that big? Mm-hmm. It's just, yeah, everyone's kind of just befuddled, and that's kind of about it, really. I think even Cage says in a bit about when he's going through his exposition dump, he says about how, you know, you puzzled? Because I'm puzzled. It's just like, yes, Cage, we are all fucking puzzled.
So it takes a good 40 minutes. Well, it takes exactly like 40 minutes before we get Cage on screen, right? And we kind of like, we get semi-introduced to people. They kind of just turn up and like fight and like kind of turn around to Jake and be like, what, you not remember us? You don't remember us? We're family. Like, you know us, right? You better have remembered how to use this. And like, it's Frank Grillo like brandishing a sword or something like that. And there's that, again, we're supposed to be in Burma. I don't like, anyone listening, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but like, they're not known for cornfields in Burma, are they? Like, I would assume it would be like, there would be rice paddies, right? Like, because one of the like kind of like slightly impressive shots in this is there's like this nice shot like above the cornfield, and it's like, oh yeah, that's quite nice. But then it's like, then it's just back into like, I don't know. All of a sudden, you get introduced to like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, don't you? Because you get JuJu Chan with her nunchucks, you get that guy with his like metal pole. And then Tony Jaa's got these things that I can only describe as like pipe, like plumbing pipe that has been spray painted silver.
That is exactly what I had in my notes. Yeah, it's just like he's come to my bathroom and just stealing some of my pipes from the shower. It's like, I'll have those back, please, Tony. Like, what the fuck are you going to do with those? For Tony Jaa as well, like, you know, he's like, in terms of martial arts, I know the guy who plays Jake is you know, he's like, that's kind of his career. The kickboxing is martial arts, but like, you know, like I'm amazed that Tony Jaa's just gone. Yeah, I'll take the plumbing pipes. Give him something a bit more cool.
Yeah,
it's Tony Jaa, for Christ's sake, or just let him just go barehanded. Christ.
Yeah, they're weird. They look like plumbing pipe, but also they could be like the handles of crutches. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure. I'm probably sure there's someone at home who's like a big like kind of like martial arts and weapons fan right now, going, they've got a name. Give them their proper name, like they call like Knickerbocker or something. So the comic book sequences for me, I'm not sure about you, just very much feel like they're paper macheing over some plot holes and like gaping script holes. So like, how can we transition to another scene here? It's like, just cut to a couple of panels on a comic book.
Yeah, no, it is, isn't it? It's just basically, you know, getting characters from one place to the next without showing it. They're just kind of going, oh, here's Jake and the girl. Yeah, that now they're running through the jungle. We're going to put that in some comic panels, and then you know, that's fine. Skip to the next scene. Yeah, no, it's I understand the director was shoving them in to go, oh, but yeah, by the way, this is set on a comic, but they're just shoehorned in. There's no the theme of the film. They're not relevant. You're not sitting there thinking this has got things that you would go, oh god, that's quite comic book-esque. It's just random comic book panels that are just shoved in to get from one scene to the next. It's again it's just jarring, isn't it? Just makes no sense.
So let's talk about Cage when he turns up. Like, what does his performance give to you? Do you enjoy Cage in this film?
Yeah, and I'm not just saying this, and it's easy to say, but he's without doubt the best part of the film. And you kind of already knew that watching the trailer. Yeah, you knew that Cage is going to probably be whatever he brings to the table. You know, in the trailer, he looks fun. He comes out with a couple of lines. You know, oh yeah, okay, he's looking pretty good. And he's come through the best bit of the film. I guess for Cage, which is a bit of a shame, is that he's kind of just really used as like sort of an exposition dump, isn't he? That's basically what he's there for. Like, you see him and he's like he does his martial arts, and that's quite fun watching people flip round that clearly aren't Cage. Oh yeah, okay, I'm sure that's Cage doing that flip. Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, someone who's just like this different size and the hair, you know, the greasy hair is a bit different, but oh no, yeah, it's Cage. But no, he's just used as that. He's just used to explain just the contrived and just rubbish plot. Like Cage, you know, to be honest, we don't really care about the plot. Like, just do you. Just, you know, do some more fighting. Just, you know, come out with some one-liners. Just, you know, just do you. We don't want to hear about the plot because we don't get it anyway.
Well, I don't know how many people they need to explain this kind of 6 years sequence thing, because you get it through the crab man from My Name is Earl, who is also in this film, who explains at the beginning through the woman interpreting what Jake is saying. It's like saying about a portal, 6 years, like fighting and stuff like that. So you kind of get it there. And then it's like, just in case you missed this film that is very like low on plot, just in case you didn't understand what it is. And I think all of the promo for this film as well has really hammered that fact home, because that's all this film, do you know what I mean? Like, the frame this is like strung upon is very thin, and it's like that's all we've got is every 6 years alien comes down, has to fight. You either win, you either lose. It could fuck up the whole world if you lose. But then we get Cage doing it again, and it's just like, don't understand his character, and I kind of like, but I'm glad he's there at the same time. Like, I don't really see what the point of his character is, even when we get to the kind of like the twist, which we'll get to, like what the somewhat twist in it. But like, he delivers some great lines. So like the way he delivers, "Oh ho ho, get off my piano," it's fantastic.
Yeah, no, he's good. He's good in this Cage. This is again, it's more. Yeah, he's you know, he's fighting and he has a couple of moments, but overall it's subtle. It's subtle. It's, you know, he's not shouting. He's not doing anything too outlandish. He's just playing this kind of grizzled, sort of older, kind of, you know, broken down martial arts guy who, you know, back in his day would have been, you know, like phenomenal, and he's seen this alien and he knows how it works, and the alien let him live that time, and that's because, you know, he does the whole crazy thing, and it's good. It's like, it's nice, and it's chilled out, it's subtle, and it's reined in. And I guess, you know, that's good. That's, you know, I think if Cage would have started bouncing around the room, I think, oh, Cage, you know, like, no, not for this, Cage. It doesn't fit.
I would have loved to have known, like, what elements of the character as well were Cage's, like, input on it. Like, whether it's like the thing with he makes hats out of newspapers, or he smokes these kind of like spitty little roll-up cigarettes and stuff like that. It's like they feel like weird little character quirks and stuff like that nobody else really has. They all kind of feel like cookie cutter characters, like, especially the fact that the rest of the cast wear these horrible costumes that, like, I can only describe as like they're kind of like early 2010s like pretty boys who shop at All Saints in these kind of like weird or like these Kylie Minogue hood things, you know, like from the Can't Get You Out of My Head video, but in black, and these textured t-shirts, and it's like, I don't know what you're going for here, but they just look like a crap boy band.
Yeah, no, yeah, you get this like really baggy t-shirts that kind of went down to your knees, or I think the only thing that was missing maybe would have been like a scoop neck.
Yeah.
Had like the All Saints kind of like, you know, Geordie Shore-esque scoop neck.
With the kind of what is like distressed edges. Everything's kind of got like a distressed look to it. Like they're one step away from wearing like those jeans with like the distressed, like the rips all down them and stuff like that. And they kind of got these like, I don't know, weird little booties on. They got these like kind of little like look something that like Kanye West would release and people would like go fucking crazy for, and it's like, at the same time look like they're gonna fall apart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, something that just looks like really cheap, but it would set you back about $2,500. Yeah, but no, it's the fashion sense is just. Let's just say you wouldn't be that afraid if they were coming towards you with kind of, you know, Tony Jaa holding the plumbing in his hands, wearing that kind of kit. I think you'd probably think that you could hold your own, even though they are martial experts. You'd probably stand your ground and go, yeah, why not? Let's give it a go.
So, what do you make of the like kind of like the rest of the fighting sequences in this? Are they as like upsetting as that kind of siege on the base sequence?
They're just, you know, they're not like bad. They're just underwhelming, aren't they? They're quite boring. You know, some of the stuff with when the alien comes out and he has that kind of one-on-one with that guy, one of the guys. You know, it's kind of interesting. He's got kind of got the longer pole. It gives him like a decent fight. That's okay. It's not too bad. I've heard people say, you know, it rips off, and I think I briefly mentioned it, the whole like Mortal Kombat and how this alien is, you could be, you know, conceived as like the Predator, in the mold of the Predator, say. So if you're gonna steal ideas potentially from Mortal Kombat and Predator, like let's see it. So for example, in these fights, you know, let's see like fatalities, you know, ending the fights. Let's see some more gore. Let's see some decapitations. You know, let's see some more blood, but the blood looks so terrible. But let's make it, you know, let's increase the gore. Let's make it like uber violent. Well, you could have made it a bit more interesting potentially.
Well, yeah, that kind of Predator meets Mortal Kombat is a pull quote from boxoffice.com, and like I'm very interested to know like what the full review says. I won't read it out on this, but like, yeah, obviously it's always interesting when you see those things where it's like it's this, because the rest of the review can be like scathing. Do you know what I mean? And it's like it's this film meets this film, but nowhere near as good. But like the kind of marketing department have gone, well, they said it's that film versus that meets that film, so let's have that. But like, one of the problems I have with it, and it's like it's to do with the fighters, is they are supposed to be like the creme de la creme of like martial artists from the world. And there's one guy, I think it's in like a flashback sequence, a guy who kind of gets his head like snapped when the like alien kind of like heats it up and his head goes red and it kind of gets snapped. And like, I'm not fat shaming here, but he's like a portly guy. Do you know what I mean? Like, surely he's not like every day in the gym, like fighting, and like that. He's not the creme de la creme of fighters here.
No, you're not convinced by any of these. Yeah, you know, Tony Jaa, you're like, yeah, okay, you know, he's putting some he's doing some half decent moves. You know, Tony Jaa, have you seen any of his stuff? Like, you know, he can fight. You know, he's very talented, but you're not convinced by like anyone. When they're fighting, you're kind of just like, yeah, well, I don't think you're going to, I think the alien's going to probably just get rid of you eventually. So let's just kind of speed it along a bit.
Well, this film's littered with like Star Trek red shirts, isn't there? There's people, and it's like, so the main cast, we hardly really know what the character names are, but it's like, if someone is just all of a sudden in a scene and the alien's there, it's like, well, I've not seen him before. He's going to die. And it's like, but it's like, you don't care, because I don't care. Like, I didn't care about the people we're supposed to be rooting for, let alone these people who are just kind of like shepherded in to be like cannon fodder. And then like, it's by the time we kind of like get to, I guess it's the like the pre-end fight sequence when they all kind of get to have a go at the alien. Like, it kind of starts off with JuJu Chan and she kind of gets offed, and we get that the predator vision in this as well is fucking pants, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess with the predator stuff, it's like, if you know, so the Mortal Kombat, the fatalities, you know, they haven't used that, fine, but again, like with the predator, if you're gonna have this predator rip off, and then you're gonna also have like the, as you said, like the thermal vision type stuff going on as well. Like, I need to see more. I need to see you kind of, you know, collecting some skulls. You know, I need you like get your pouch out, Predator-esque, put the skulls in the pouch, you know, hang them up, do something with them, skin some people. You know, when you fight Cage in a bit, you know, I want to see some skinless Cage. Yeah. You know, let's see it. Just do something. I know you've got this unworldly respect for Cage. You know, you kind of let him off about 10 times and go, right, no, let's go again, Cage. You know, I respect you. Here's your sword back. But like, if you're going to rip something off, you know, like do it, you know, do it well, at least. Don't just rip it off and then just make a mockery of it, which is, yeah, like the thermal stuff is it's just embarrassing, isn't it, basically?
Was it inevitable that Cage was going to die in this film?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess because the whole film centers around this Jake guy, and I guess you just sort of expect everyone to die, bar him, and maybe JuJu Chan. You know, maybe because it's his shooed-in love interest. You're like, oh, you know, maybe she might get through, or the final showdown is going to be she fights the alien, she gets killed, and now Jake's really fucked off. Now he's gonna finally stop hiding. He's gonna finally stop running because everyone else is dead. So he's gonna have to finally fight the alien. But no, it's, you know, I guess they gave Cage a reasonably dignified ending. You know, he put up a good fight. You know, he gained the respect of the Predator. It was, you know, basically what it, like the Arnie, where at the end the Predator takes off his guns and goes, right, okay, let's go hand to hand here, Arnie. He gains the respect of the alien. So like he lets him get off the hook and they keep fighting, and then he they sort of breaking the back. That was a bit lame. Yeah. Unfortunately, they kind of ruined it a little bit with that. But overall, you know, it was okay. And it's a shame to see Cage go, but he probably went, in terms of how some of the other characters went, he went as good as it probably could have been for him. Well, of this film.
The only one that kind of comes anywhere near close is Frank Grillo's kind of like, he's shot in the stomach and goes out with like 2 fingers up in the air, like, fuck you. And it's like, all right, we get it. He's supposed to be a hard ass. Like, fucking hell. So then we get to like the reveal, and I'm not sure if you cared about this reveal any more than I did, that Nicolas Cage's character Wiley, again, like this is, I know this because I've read this on like IMDb, that is the name of the character. I don't really think it's mentioned in the film whatsoever, but like he is Jake's dad, and then we kind of get like some footage of like a young Jake being like Mr. Miyagi trained by Wiley.
Yeah, it's not great, is it? It's not too good. You know, again, like if you're going to do that, if you're going to put in this whole subplot with how Nic Cage is Jake's dad, you know, let's see some Cage then. Use some of that 25 mil budget and let's get a digitally altered younger Cage, not just some guy with this like rubbish wig on, kind of doing some basic 1-2 with younger Jake. I think it's I don't know. Like I guess maybe with Cage's death, it makes you sort of care a bit more, maybe. And then because up until this point, well, not for me personally, I wasn't rooting for Jake at all. Like the character is just awful. He just spends his whole time running away, and that was he's got everyone killed because he ran away in the first place. Yeah. So he's very unlikable. And I guess it's not the guy's fault; it's just the character. But I guess adding that whole Cage as his dad, and you have that sentimentality stuff, and it's like, oh, okay, maybe I want Jake to get his revenge and kill the alien and save the day. I guess maybe.
What I didn't understand was did he know he was his dad pre-amnesia, or like is it only for the last day he forgot he was his dad, or has he just never known he was his dad? He must and it's like all of it's rushed. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so we got like that. For one, the amnesia plot is like kind of script writing. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of what you would write into a script if you were a teenager and gone like, oh, how can we kind of like give this character like an arc where he's like gonna learn something, instead of like having him have to be like a complete novice learning it. It's like, well, we need for him to really quickly, or like we need for him to know like how to fight without like having a training sequence. Do you know what I mean? Without setting it up. But at the same time, we need for the other members of the cast to explain to him and the audience what is going on. So it's like, he's got amnesia then. We're just like, that ticks that box.
Yeah, the cast do like sort of several times that they just can't believe it, can they? Because they keep saying, Jake, this was your plan, or Jake, we're going here now. Do you not remember? Oh, he doesn't. Like, they can't get into their heads that he's got amnesia. They're just like, do you not remember this, Jake? Oh my god, oh he can't remember. But this was your plan, and they said that like several times. And also, I guess with the whole, did he know that Cage was his dad, but pre or post amnesia? I guess like I'm guessing not, because Cage doesn't even try and like sort of bring it up, or he doesn't even try and sort of show that he's maybe upset, or he kind of asks him the question like, how bad is your amnesia? Do you not remember anything? Like between me and you.
Sorry, man. Don't worry about it. Sorry,
that's all right.
It's a call from Universal Credit. Just obviously.
Oh Christ! Right, yeah. No worries.
But continue. If they, I'll ask you. So let's talk about the final fight sequence. It's bad, right? It's like kind of like it's a real anti-climax to a kind of underwhelming film already.
Yeah. I'm not. So I think you get one of those comic books panels sort of popping in again, don't you? I think they have to be fair, but the translator, the older woman who was there earlier, like sort of puts a couple of bullets into the alien, which is she probably actually does a better job than most of the fighters. So you that's kind of you kind of get that, and then I guess like what I'm not getting with this again, it's like it's not very good, but the alien's like kicking like Jake's ass, like he's dealing with him pretty handily, which you expected. And then right at the end, I'm guessing, I don't know if it's maybe the fact that Jake's pretty much like on the verge of death. He's getting choked out. You're like, oh, okay, he's going to come back somehow, but how's he going to come back from here? Is someone going to, JuJu going to come in and save the day and sacrifice herself, or, something's going to happen. But then I don't know, maybe he just sees that squished CGI face and just kind of goes, oh my God, wakes him up and kind of goes, well, to be fair, like I can't lose to this. Like, this can't be my dying memory is this, getting killed and choked out by this squished face. And he just starts kicking his ass.
Well, that's that weird thing as well, that it's established like quite late in the day again that it has an aversion to fire. And it's like, and it's not like there's a big blaze of like fire. It's like this tiny little controlled fire that the alien gets near and goes, "Bleh, bleh, bleh," like, and kind of it can't see all of a sudden when the fire's involved. And then there's that moment where like it looks like the alien's got the better of him and he kind of falls to the floor. And then again it goes in super slow-mo and he's reminded of something that I think Wiley told him. It's like, when he regenerates, it takes 5 to 6 seconds before he's whole again. And so I did a bit of like, because I knew this, 'cause, like being my second watch of this film, I decided to time how long on screen it was between like the kind of the gunshots in the alien's like stomach for them to regenerate. And this is no word of a lie. It's 33.4 seconds on screen that it takes for that hole to regenerate. And in that time, it's not just like, so Alan Moussari, Jake manages to get on his shoulders. JuJu Chan gets to come in and have a little bit of a scuffle. They kind of like get to beat the shit out of him some more. And then the crab man comes in, throws like a few grenades and gets to be like, hey, Jake, use some of these. And it's like, so it does all that. And then, what do you make of that? Are you surprised that it's 33.4?
Well, no, I'm not surprised. No, that's it's probably expected longer, to be honest. But the thing is, as you said, it's I don't think it's even Wiley who tells him about this whole 5 seconds, 7 seconds thing. It's the other bloke. Again, no idea what his name is. It's the guy who gets his like chest burnt, I think, who knocks him out, who knocks Jake out, takes him to the side and goes, right, Jake, I've woken, wakes him up and goes, right, I've got some big info for you. Drops this whole like he takes 5 to 7 seconds to recoup. Just bear that in mind. So they shoehorn it in the film. They shove it in and go, oh, we've got to remember that for later. But then, as you said, they make a mockery of it because they then spend over 30 seconds doing that.
Yeah.
Having that 30 seconds window. It's like, no, why shoe that horn in the first place if you're not even going to stick to it?
I would factor into that 33.4 seconds, 10 seconds for slow-mo. But even then, like, that's 20. That's 23 seconds. It's too long. It's all too long. It's like don't set up something and don't set up some rules and don't play by those rules, because like, again, it's when you're doing tests like that, it makes like you realize that this film has lost an audience. Do you know what I mean? Like, if this was fun, and I think that's where this film falls down, is it's like, if this was like exciting and fun, it could be as dumb as it wants to be. And if the fights were better, considering the talent they've got as well, I think that's where it's disappointing. If this was a lot funner, it would have been fine. Do you know what I mean? It would have been leave your brain in a bucket type film. Just like, let's see some punching, some fighting. Whereas it's not that. It's like when you're kind of taken out of it, and like, and the film kind of almost does it intentionally. Like, there's a moment we get that shot of outside of the temple with the like thunder and lightning going on and the comet passing by in the air, and it's almost like the film's tapping on the shoulder going, do you remember, this is really shit.
Yeah, no, I think it's as you said about, like it is, if you can't make it fun, then, and we don't need all this shit about all this like this exposition and all this like convoluted like plot about the alien come back every few years. We don't need that. We just like don't have it. Just say he's coming to take over the earth, or he's coming to do something, and that's it. Keep it simple, because then you haven't got to bring all this extra stuff in and go, don't forget about this, or what about this, or this is where he comes from, this is his backstory. Just keep it simple. Mm-hmm. Just keep like have like an alien race like Predator. It was the whole thing about Predator. You didn't know what he was.
Yeah,
he was in this jungle just killing people. And you're like, who the fuck is this? Like, what is he? Where's he come from? What's he doing? But we don't care, because it was so well executed. We didn't care what he was or where he come from. We were just like, we were enthralled by him. We're like, oh, this is okay. Let's see this. Let's see this showdown with him and Arnie. This is good.
Well, it almost feels like you're expected to have like read the. Do you know what I mean? It's like it feels like it's retroactively trying to get people to buy the comics. It's like you might understand a bit more of the exploits of this team and like kind of how they got to this stage beforehand. Like maybe you get some like, whereas this kind of drops you in it, and it's like, well, I don't care about anyone. Like, and it's like when the way this film's left, because obviously, they put the grenades in the alien, blow it up, and push it back into the portal, right?
Yeah, you make your point. Yeah, maybe that's what I'm missing. Maybe it is like that you just expected, or you watch this and go, and the director and whoever all the people who have made it kind of expect you to sort of go off and like seek out the comics and go, oh right, now I want to get I want to find out about the more of a backstory about where he came from and the alien and his race and what planet he lives on and all this. And I've heard sort of rumors that this is going to be now part of like a series, and the director wants to bring out more. And then I imagine, 2 and 3 or however, if he manages to get a second one out, we'll then go back and delve into the alien and where it all started and the history of it and everything else. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's interesting. But no, like
I think it's more of a fact that the director just wants to work with different martial artists. And he's probably thinking like, right, we've got this team for this one. We'll get some like younger blood for the next one. And then like, maybe he would like, because the closing line of this is the Crab Man saying, see you in 6 years, like to where the portal was. And all I was left thinking was, oh, let's fucking hope not.
yeah, that's worrying. That's concerning. And Greg, you won't be seeing me in 6 years.
Yeah.
So,
well, hopefully, if they take 6 years to make a sequel, they would learn some of the mistakes that they made on this one and can make a half decent film. Like, get writing now. Get writing the script now. Like, do a second and a third draft. Do you know what I mean? Like.
Yeah.
Do a first draft, because this film, like, don't go, we've got half a draft and we've got some comic book panels.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. What I want to know is, I don't know if you can maybe answer this better than me, but so the film's called Jiu Jitsu. Like, how much, to the untrained eye, if people were performing Jiu Jitsu or fighting Jiu Jitsu in front of me right now, I wouldn't be able to go, oh, yeah, that's Jiu Jitsu. Oh, I know that move. That's a Jiu Jitsu move. Is there how much actual jiu-jitsu, or is there any actual moves that yourself or that you may have read about that was actually in the film that was like, oh, that's jiu-jitsu?
So, like, I know this just from like reading online, and especially when the trailers came out for this, there was a lot of like backlash from people going, "That's not even any fucking jiu-jitsu in it. Like, what's going on?" Like, and it's like, why call it that? Why not call it like, I don't know, Alien Battle? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? That's a crap title, but like, at least it's like it is what the film's about. Whereas like jiu-jitsu, it's like, you can't call something do you know what I mean? If I served you a pizza, I couldn't go, here's your burger, Ben. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's what it is, isn't it? You serve something. You serve something called jiu-jitsu, and then there's little to no jiu-jitsu in it, from my understanding, at least.
Yeah, I guess maybe it just, I don't know, just jiu-jitsu sound cool. I suppose it's like, oh, jiu-jitsu. Oh, I guess I just looked through all the different types of martial arts and just went with the one that sounded, I don't know, like kind of interesting.
Well, because I think maybe jiu-jitsu is a lot of like on the ground work and kind of like arm bars and stuff like that. It's like, I don't think it's the most exciting. Like,
no, I think it's like grappling and stuff, isn't it? A lot of like close combat grappling, and it's like kind of UFC-esque sort of
rolling about on the floor.
Yeah, you spend like extended periods of time just on the floor, like trying to choke someone and getting the odd kick and punching now and again.
Yeah.
So I imagine if they'd have actually tried to sort of set up the fights with actual jiu-jitsu moves, this film would have been even more unwatchable. It'd just been like, is this alien gonna finish this bloke off? I guess it's like maybe there's elements to it in the Nic Cage fight. I don't think there's any like jiu-jitsu moves, but it's a bit more slower pace. There's a lot of kind of like, okay, let's have a quick breather. Oh, let's go again. Or like, okay, I got you on the floor, now you get back up. Let's go again. So yeah, I guess maybe if that fight may have been the closest you're going to get to jiu-jitsu, where it's just slower and it's more close combat and there's not too many flipping and I don't know.
So you touched on this earlier with Cage's greasy hair. So I like to, before we wrap this up, ask 3 questions at the end. And the first one is, does Nic Cage have bad hair in this film?
I wouldn't even say he's got bad hair, actually. I think it's about right. It's about right for his character. It's about right for the film. And yeah, I think it's all right. I think it plays into what he's giving on screen. So no, I think it's okay. I think it's about right for Cage. I'm okay with that hair. It's my probably biggest problem with Cage's hair is like, like if he's going to go natural, he's obviously slightly receding. That's that's absolutely fine. Like keep it to that as much as possible. It's like there's no issue with that hair cage. Like we like that. We're okay with it. I'm okay with it. But it's where you see stuff like oh god, what's that film called? Bangkok Dangerous.
Yeah.
It's where like he's got like this wig, or he's got this hairpiece on, and it's like slicked, and it's kind of like he's dumped his head in like a whole tub of Brill cream, and it's styled. That's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see a bad wig or a bad headpiece and styled. That's where I have a problem with Cage's hairdo.
So yeah, with the hair as well. Do you think it's a wig in this film?
Yeah, it's sort of a mystery, isn't it? I guess you could probably answer this better than me, but like what is Cage putting on his head? I'm guessing that there is bits of hair stuck on, or it is mostly wig, because he's not got a great deal of hair left. His natural hair is receding somewhat. So yeah, but he does manage to pretty much every film have a different type of haircut, and it's like it is impressive whatever he's doing.
Well, I'm not sure if you've seen History of Swear Words, but I think over the last year he's had some work done on his hair, because his hairline is kind of like shot forward, like rapidly.
Yeah, it's come back from the dead.
Yeah, it's kind of like, do you know what I mean? It's high tide on his hairline. Like it's kind of like the tide is very much in all of a sudden. And he looks great for it. Like, do you know what I mean? If you've got it, like, and you like, if that's keeping you awake at night, going like, oh, I look stupid, and it kind of says something to this, like, that obviously beauty standards go across both genders when it comes to Hollywood, in the fact of like, especially as you get older, and it's like, especially someone like Cage, where it's like, he probably is still trying to do like these lead roles and stuff like that, and he's probably thinking, I'm not ready to retire into these, like, I don't know, like do you know what I mean, older man roles, where it's like I'm just playing dads, and yeah, do you know what I mean, like fuddy duddies. He's like, I still want to kick a bit of arse, so like maybe to keep up to date with your Leo DiCaprios, or I don't know, your younger generation, I'm gonna have to get some plugs.
Yeah, no, well, I think I think with Cage in particular, I guess he spent his money on a lot more worse things, a lot more dubious. I think getting his hairline sorted out, I think is probably one of the best investments he's probably made in the last 10, 15 years.
I'm surprised he didn't get his hair replaced with snakes.
Yeah. I should say, actually, like, completely, well, not off topic, but like just completely random, which I thought was quite funny, is that I don't know if he was shooting a film. It may have been the Bad Lieutenant film. But I saw that he had like a bit of an issue. He was arrested. I think he had a bit of a domestic problem with his then wife. And I saw that he was let out on bail. And the person who posted his bail was Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Wow.
I just saw this on Wikipedia. I know this is like nothing to do with his haircut, but I had to, like, it just popped into my head again. I was like, I better just dump it out quickly before I forget about it. And I just saw that, and I was just like, yeah, that sounds perfect. But yeah, Dog the Bounty Hunter. I don't know if there's any truth to that. It is Wikipedia, so yeah, pinch of salt. But yeah,
amazing.
Okay,
I guess that kind of got sprung loaded back into your memory because we were talking about bad hair, and I think Dog the Bounty Hunter has possibly got one of the worst fucking haircuts of all time.
Yeah, no, good point. Yeah, he has. I think he does. I think he should probably seek out Cage actually for some sort of hair advice.
Yeah, who's this guy? Did he go to Turkey for one of those famous Turkey hair jobs? But we could get lost again in the woods of Nicolas Cage's hair. Let's talk about his voice. Does he do a crazy voice in this film?
I don't think so. Not really. He does his whole, I'm crazy and waves the hand in front of the face and stuff. But I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Again, quite subtle, quite reserved. There's not too much shouting. That's why it's good. That's what I like about it. I think you'd have just made the film even more unwatchable. You could have come on and just like bouncing around the place, shouting, I'm a martial arts expert, whatever he's coming out with. I think doing what he done, keeping it to a minimal, keeping it contained, worked with the character, and it just made his performance like easily the best part of the film. And it didn't add to, it gave you that light relief, didn't it? For like sort of the 20, 30 minutes he's on, well, he's sort of not on screen for that long, but for the period of time he's in the film, it actually just it just got you basically, it helped you get through the film in one piece.
Yeah, so if we've got like the scale of like giving nothing to like giving everything, so like, yeah, you'll have like Left Behind at kind of giving nothing and Deadfall at like ramped up to 11. I think this very much sits in like a nice like 5, because you get like a nice, like you get some Cageisms. You kind of get like the glint in his eye and the line deliveries, whether it's like he's like the spaceman in the sci-fi sense, like poetic warrior from outer space, or we get, yeah, like that kind of line about the piano, and like just like the way he delivers stuff. You get like these nice little, or the way he delivers like, I can fly too. It's like it's not ramped up to silly stupid, but like it's enough where it's, oh yeah, I like what he's doing.
Yeah, no, it's relaxed, and it's always nice to see Cage where he looks like he's having a good time. Like he looks like, yeah, I think he was only on set for, what was it, like 3 days? So he wasn't there for that long. Yeah, so like, perfect, in and out, got it done, and it seems like, he wasn't putting in too much effort. He didn't need to anyway, but he was relaxed and he was having a good time. I think that there are films where you see Cage, like we talked about The Wicker Man briefly. I think even when he starts putting the bear suit on, yeah, he's having a better time because he just starts punching women in the face, right? Okay, great, running around doing whatever. But I think he's not having a good time. And you don't want to see Cage you don't want to see Cage miserable or not having a good time, because that makes you miserable. You're like, Cage, I'm only here for you. So, whatever you do with your performance, if it's like a more of a sort of a subtle or drawn back one, or like a big shouty one, you want to make, you don't want to have the feeling that Cage he doesn't want to be there just as much as potentially you.
Yeah.
That's like, that kind of makes the experience just that bit worse.
Well, Wicker Man's a weird one because he's a producer on that. So you would have thought he would have made sure he was having a good time, or unless like that is what he was going for. I know he kind of thought he was doing like some kind of like Jimmy Stewart-esque performance. He thought he was in like, he was doing his best Vertigo when it came to that film. But I think we've kind of answered this in our discussion there about his voice, but do we get a Nicolas Cage freak out in this film?
No, not in the sort of, I guess, a conventional Nic Cage freak out, is there? Like he's he comes out of a couple of lines and stuff, but it's not him freaking out, is it? He's, I feel like in like another film, he could have, if he wanted to, he could have carried that forward and kept, really pushed it home, but he doesn't need to, which is fortunately helps us just sort of just enjoy his performance for what it is.
Perfect. Well, Ben, it very much feels like we could have been on your podcast talking about this film, because I think we've rightfully given it a flogging, right? Would you recommend people seek this one out and watch it?
See, yeah, the tricky thing is with kind of the world we're living at the moment, well, in the UK with lockdown and stuff, it's tricky because it's one of those films where if you can get like a group of friends around, have a few beers, you can't, maybe the pubs are still closed, but you can get a few friends and it's like $3.50 to rent. Okay. Like, yeah, 50p each, take the hit. You can get drunk and you can enjoy it for what it is. But to be honest, like I'm not going to endorse illegal streaming, but if a lot of people are hard up, but at this point, like I would say that paying £3.50 to potentially rent this is hard to justify. I think you are better off buying the essentials, getting some milk, buying some bread, and doing that. So I think maybe hold off. Let's have it as like a something to enjoy post lockdown. Where we can see our friends again, we can get together. Maybe the pubs are still closed and stuff, still coming back to normal, and then go half or chip in. Watch it for an hour and a half, like as a pre-drinks or whatever, and just enjoy it for what it is. I'm sure if you're hammered, like you could definitely get a bit more out of this.
Yeah, definitely. If this kind of came on at 11 o'clock on a Friday night, once you've had a few shandies, you'd be like, oh, I'm like, it is what it is. It's a bit of stupid fun, but yeah, I own this on Blu-ray. Just because I'm a Cage completist in physical media as well. And I am bitterly disappointed. So I don't tend to talk about like the kind of like the physical releases, but this is like a bare bones Blu-ray release. I was hoping for something, whether it's like a kind of like, if it's like a condensed version of, do you know what I mean? Like we were talking about the comic book earlier. It's like if you kind of got like a little booklet that kind of like, do you know what I mean, told like, had a bit extra to it, or had like a interview featurettes. And what's really annoying is there is like, on YouTube, you can watch interviews with like the director and some of the principal cast. And it's like, why has that not been stuck on the DVD? Do you know what I mean? All you've got is like play film, scene selection, setup. And it's like, oh my God. I've like, it cost me like, 11 quid, I think.
Yeah, it's just incredibly like, it's just a piss take, isn't it? It's just incredibly lazy and just, you know, like if the director wants you to go back and have a look at the comics and maybe get into it and set you up for, you know, potential further sequels and further films in the franchise, like, sure, you know, just puts anything in, like, you know, just even a bloody a link to where you can buy the comic maybe and go, oh, you know, if you own the DVD, you can get 50% off this. You're still like, God, really? I've got to pay extra for this. Like, okay, but just give you something. But no, I guess it just goes along with the film. It's just lazy, isn't it? Basically lazy and just kind of uninteresting.
That I couldn't have said it better myself. Well, yeah, we come to the end of this conversation, and obviously, with the film floggers, where can people keep up to date with everything you guys are doing? Are you on like the socials and stuff like that? This is your chance to give it a good old plug.
Yeah. Film floggers are on all the usual outlets. So we got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Film Floggers. Just sort of, you know, we got a pretty varied amount of random films on there. We did some Halloween stuff, some spooky stuff, and some Christmas stuff. We've got Batman and Robin, the 97 Batman and Robin coming out soon. So, you know, that might be worth checking out. That was quite a fun one. A horrendous film. But yeah, hopefully there's something on there. We don't take ourselves too seriously. So, you know, don't expect us to be, you know, analysing and breaking down everything about films. We just kind of go on and just rip a film to shit, basically, give or take, and try and add a few laughs if we can.
As somebody who got on like the ground floor with your podcast, kind of started listening from like day one, essentially, I'm going to say this, obviously, like, I wouldn't have had Ben on the podcast if I wasn't a massive fan of Film Floggers. And like, for you guys listening at home, like, I would 100% recommend it. Not only just because I've guested on the podcast, but like, I don't know. Very quickly, you very much feel like you are one of the team, whether it is, do you know what I mean? Like you're kind of sitting in on that conversation, whether it's you and Tom or you and Fiona chatting. You kind of you feel like you're eavesdropping on just a couple of mates chatting about a film, and it's a fantastic listen, and give it a go, guys. As you would say, pick up a flog and join them.
Oh, well, very kind words, Petros. Yeah, that's it is still kind of overwhelming to hear people say nice things about it, but it's that's very, very kind of you, and I'm glad we were able to get over our slight speed bump of when you came on Film Floggers, and I did get the name of your podcast wrong, which is still haunting me to this day. Fortunately, you know, we spoke about it. You know, as men, we got together and we've decided to move forward with this relationship. So, you know, I thank you for that, and you know, look forward to having you on again. And I may let Tom introduce you next time, just in case.
Well, thank you very much for coming and raging with Cage with me.
Thank you.
Well, there we go. Thank you very much to Ben for coming and talking about all things jiu-jitsu with me. I'm sure you'll agree it was a fantastic episode. It was a great chat. I could have talked to Ben for hours. If you haven't already, check out my guest appearance on Film Floggers, which you can find on all good podcast platforms, which we talked about the Nicolas Cage, John Lovitz, and Dana Carvey Christmas vehicle, Trapped in Paradise. So, we are very much hot on the heels of Nicolas Cage, and next week's episode is with Battle Royale with Cheese editor and writer Matt Conway, where we will be talking about the freshly released, the film that comes out in 2 days' time, Willy's Wonderland. We will be talking all things Willy's Wonderland, as well as all the irregular questions that I ask my guests. I would tell you what this one is like, but I'm yet to record it. I'll be recording this tomorrow, if you need to know that. But also on Friday, you will get a bonus episode, one of the Caged In Conversation episodes, where I spoke to Willy's Wonderland writer G.O. Parsons. So that will be hitting your podcatchers first thing on Friday, the 12th of February. There is a spoiler section in that episode for Patreons. So if you've seen the film and you want a bit extra, under the £3 a month banner, you will get access to all of the previous bonus content. So that's all of the bonus questions for every episode, as well as this bonus content for my interview with G.O. Parsons. That interview is in the can, so I can tell you a little bit about it. We go into the inception of this idea for Willy's Wonderland, Gio's come up in the industry, where this idea came from, how it kind of the ball got rolling on it, how Nic Cage got involved, and an amazing story of how Gio had a chance encounter with Nic Cage once upon a time. It's one that you won't want to miss. I'm sure regular listeners are fed up with this point, but if this is your first time listening and you enjoyed this podcast, please don't hesitate to head on over to the rating and review system for whichever podcast you listen to. If they have a rate and review page, please give this podcast 5 stars and write a little review. Write either which is your favourite Nicolas Cage film, which is your favourite Coppola family film. Are you a big Francis Ford Coppola nut? Obviously, we have Coppola connections coming soon. Or answer me this: what does Bill Murray say to Scarlett Johansson at the end of Lost in Translation? As always, guys, I have been Petros. I have been Cage. You have been amazing. Bye-bye.